Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reacts where today we got ourselves a track from an act named YuKi or YuKi titled Reality. And if we switch over to here, we got ourselves a video on the screen here, the music video, YuKi down here, down the title. This track features Liliia Kysil. We're going to listen through this track from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's do it, let's go, what do we got?
The world you knew is gone. People trade truth for influence, loyalty for fame, and morals for attention. This is the age of illusion. The world has changed.
I'm sick of the tired of that same cycle. They wanna stay confined, running from the truth, and we're in the same disguise, chasing the skies. Things good to get paid from lies. The long as they eat, they don't care if we stay deprived. They love vanity, only wanna chase the high and take what they want, consumed by the fame and pride. Made to shine, like what's the point of waiting for mine? Forget loyalty, cause they didn't ever pay me a time. Faces turn into talent and talent to faces. Where y'all give me standing ovations. I won't comply for nothing. Listen to lies to rise and plummet. Forget love that decides a punch, but you're the own. Even when it's blood ties, they can't roll into pieces. Ain't no loving those demons, no. They so.
But I'ma never let them take control. No, I'ma keep it all, think they turn me up and I'll stand that tall.
Great exhibit of color and melody here.
Stay solid with a strong foundation, it's set in stone. It's time to fade like explode. Don't let them snakes in your home.
Ain't no honor in this game called life. They promise you the word, let you taste all highs. And watch you fall to the same hard blights. Don't expect a soul to save you, damn snakes all right. Ain't really about the talent no more. Your influence all that truly matters, of course. The numbers aren't adding, should you have a reward? We don't care about your morality, what can it afford? If you wanna feed your family, come act like a whore. Or a gangster really bad, we ain't have no remorse. We'll make you more attractive, you didn't have to be gorgeous. We just need you to feed the mass, all we ask and it's yours. Then attack soon as you learn this war. Like what's he know, where the battle and the shackles you wore. This just the facts, people sadly ignore. As we glorify the rich and laugh at the poor.
Damn.
I won't comply for nothing. They send me lies just to rise and plummet. Forget love that desires to punch, but you're the only even when it's blood ties, they can't roll into pieces. Ain't no loving those demons, no. They're so. Some only need a good enough reason, but I won't let them get close.
But I'ma never let them take control. No, I'ma keep it all, think they turn me up and I'll stand that tall. Stay solid with a strong foundation, it's set in stone. It's time to fade like explode. Don't let them snakes in your home.
That was incredibly effective. It just flew by though, didn't it? Great use of time. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named YuKi, if I'm not mistaken, YuKi titled Reality, featuring Liliia Kysil. In this section, we're going to talk about this track from an overall sort of song analysis perspective, going through the individual components and giving feedback on it, as well as sort of like mention any sort of specific or like applicable constructive critique. And then finally, I'll give my thoughts about this track from the perspective of just an overall general listener. So first of all, what do we think this track is about? I think this track is about someone who is looking at the way that social media and the way we sort of like interact with technology and people in power, the us versus their mechanic, the rich versus the poor, people taking too much that they don't deserve. And we're looking at how we can sort of protect ourselves and others who are maybe sort of more vulnerable and kind of, well, we're basically saying we don't want to fall for their traps or tricks. We don't want to sort of play into their game, you know, we don't want to have to pay with our morality in order to find success in life. I think that's a really incredible story. I have lots of love for it. I think it's meaningful now more than ever with the state of things at the moment, with the way that we interact on social media and internet and all that kind of stuff. Granted, influence is currency, and it has been for a long time, but it's become more and more visceral and more sort of pervasive amongst all aspects of our cultures on a global scale. So I appreciate stories like this. And I feel like there'll be an audience for them too. The vocals in this track are done really neatly. I'm not super convinced with the kind of the resonant high end and I think YuKi's vocals. There's just a bit of a high end resonance there that's like a little bit shrill sounding, which is like a very sort of minor thing. I do like the way that he raps. He's got great flow and very comfortable on the microphone. The words come through clearly for the most part. We've got great presence in the mix. And I think also we have some repeated lines or phrases there that are catchy and they work well within the confines of the piece and kind of lift it up a little bit from sort of how dire, understandably, a lot of the instrumental components are. I think Lilia's vocals are tremendous. They're great. I was just making sure I read that name correctly, Liliia. I like that we have a bit of sort of like clean melodic vocals going on in that chorus section to contrast with the rapped parts in the verses and sort of the bridge sections, because it offers diversity from simply a compositional perspective, but also Liliia can sing really well. And so you hear them and you go, oh, they're very comfortable on the microphone. It's both a male and a female perspective there as well. And it's just a nice sort of to and fro there. And Liliia harmonizes really neatly with the rest of the instrumental parts within the mix. The strings, the keys, the bass, the drums, etc. Creates a sort of great sort of like sense of flow and awareness of their own sort of position in the mix. And just overall, the vocals are handled well across the board. I like the part where YuKi speaks in the earlier part as well in the intro, kind of bringing it in. It kind of gives it an added bit of sort of drama and precedence there that you might not get otherwise. You know, if we had just gone straight into the verse, it might have just been a bit too sort of blunt. So it was a good choice there. Structurally, this track is 3 minutes or so, I think 3 minutes or 3, which is right in that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot where if it's less than 2 minutes, you might be missing some sort of important context within the piece. And if it's over 4 minutes, then you might need to actually add some more in order to keep the listener interested in it. Just simply for the sake of needing to have like a different chord progression or a different bar or a different twist in the tale, because even the catchiest of stuff can become a bit too overplayed depending on how you do it. I think the intro section, again with a spoken part from YuKi before we go into the verse, is great. We have bridges and choruses with different vocal styles as well, which I appreciate. I think it's nice to have like, again, the single tracking maybe in the verses with the double tracking with a bit of modulated stuff going on YuKi's part, and the bridge there to have the main sort of and the backing vocals as well, the call and responses from Liliia and the choruses. And it's just a very seamless track. You go through each part effortlessly. There's no blunt sort of transitions or anything like that. It's a very smooth experience, which makes it easy to listen to. And when it ends, you really do feel like time has flown by in a space of 2 seconds rather than 2 or 3 minutes. What I like about this track is that instrumentally, it's not too reliant on having the same instruments all the time. For example, around the 1 minute 55 mark, and in other parts of the piece as well, you have your sort of very reliable kick, snares, and cymbals on the drum key. You know, that's absolutely fine. Everyone's sort of gangster with that. But then you take it away to allow the strings and keys to sort of like sit there in the mist and kind of have a sense of weight to them without the drums needing to sort of push them forward. We've got a great sense of pace with the Chordization 16th on the kit, but it's just also nice to allow itself to not be there, to allow other things to remain resonant there. And the vocals are rhythmic within themselves through the rap component, so you've got something to sort of hold on to there if you're sort of more focused on that respect. I think the drama to the strings is really quite admirable. I like how they kind of simmer in the mix, and there's like this strain to them, almost like it's aware of the weight of the words that are being rapped or expressed on top of them. And they work so neatly alongside the arpeggios and sort of chordal ideas and melodic ideas on the keys as well, which are very sort of pensive in their approach and tone. And there's a sense of darkness or foreboding to the minor leading across the track in general, but the strings are just that further bit of angst. And like there's dynamic range to the keys as well, like at the beginning verses later on, things change and you've got this kind of bass resonance as well in certain parts, like the low end is well handled there. The mix is really full in part due to how things have been stacked within the instrumental layers and frequency spectrum. And I like that the strings are dynamic as well. There's some parts where they kind of fluctuate and they really come out of the shell a little bit. And the drums and bass are reliable with those other more expressive harmonic instruments in the mid to upper ranges. It's just great to have that variety there, that diversity there. I've just actually been paying closer attention to that bass. It's more of a sort of a cinematic approach to it, like there. It's not super percussive, and I think it allows the sidechain kicks to have their own sort of sense of purpose with the brunt of that, the push and the pep to it and staccato elements. Ultimately, thematically, I feel like this track does sort of like play to a minor leaning with the scales and chord progressions. Even if there are some majors occasionally or sort of unexpected twists and turns, it makes sense considering how sort of sad this all is, that we're in this position in the first place, that we're being forced to make these decisions by people in power, and you know, that we have to be so aware of letting these snakes into our home. And I think, again, just as a closing comment, alongside the chord progressions and how they sort of communicate the mood of the piece, in addition to the vocal melodies and the harmonies that we have in the chorus sections, it's just, again, the drama and the theater of the strings alongside how sort of somber the piano is that really sort of sets the mood. So it's a combination of those elements there. I think the studio production, recording and mixing and mastering is really good. I mentioned that there's a little bit of kind of, I think there were some plosives that were going on with some of the sort of rapped vocal takes, just a little bit of sort of high end resonance there that I wasn't like, it's just a little thing. Otherwise, incredibly well done. And that's not an all the time thing either, it's just a sometimes thing. I love that the vocals in general, like the lyrics, both YuKi as well as Liliia, you know, our good piano, string, bass, and drum parts are nice and easy to follow along to. You're never kind of lost. There's great presence for things. There's dynamic range. Things aren't the same loudness the whole time. We have growth and a bell curve across the piece there in terms of perceived loudness. The vocals aren't overproduced either. Like there are some effects chains on that sort of make them a bit more sort of synthetic in parts, but like it's not done in a way which diminishes or makes it seem unauthentic. You can tell they're just kind of frustrated with it, you know. Liliia tries to temper things, but you can tell that YuKi really just wants to sort of like fix things. And I think generally it's nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting is handled. And there's no real sort of constructive critique, again, aside from the plosive thing I mentioned. Ultimately, it's just a really great sort of self-contained concept that does its job well and is a fantastic first impression to YuKi's work. I think from a general listener's perspective, I hear this and I go, it's just nice, and I sound like such a boomer, but it's nice to hear the young people talking about this. Again, I don't presume to know their age, but they sound like they're younger, and as someone who has grown up with social media through Facebook and everything like that, it does genuinely concern me what things are becoming. And you've got like 3 or 4-year-olds that are getting involved in the social media stuff now. The parents are making big bank off of it, and it just seems a bit sad, because when you put yourself out there at that age, you're just kind of stuck, aren't you? To a certain extent, you know, you don't get any privacy and you don't have any control or agency over it. So I'm kind of thankful that we have people, again, making songs about this kind of subject matter to help people to understand just how kind of screwed up it is. It's not something that's overplayed or overspoken about. I think it's really cool. So I enjoyed this track for many reasons. Thank you for watching my review of the song from an act named YuKi titled Reality, featuring Liliia Kysil. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as you need the help more than ever with the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SB Reacts. Spiderhands out.